Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today we bring you a story about how discovering your own strengths and practicing with dedication can lead you to success. It is a tale that reminds us that we all have unique talents and that with the right mindset we can excel in anything we set our minds to. Along the way, we will also learn some new words and see how they can be used in sentences to improve our English in a fun and simple way. So stay with us until the end. Once, in a small and peaceful town, there lived a family in a quiet corner of the city. This family had a 12-year-old boy named David who was in the 6th grade. David was an energetic child who loved being outdoors, and his favorite activity was playing soccer. Almost every day, he would head to the nearby public field to practice and sharpen his skills. One afternoon, after coming home from school, David slumped onto the couch with a heavy expression on his face. He opened a school book, stared at it for a moment, and then leaned back into the cushions looking dissatisfied. His father, who had just come in from the backyard, noticed this unusual behavior and sat beside him. Gently, he asked what was troubling his son. David explained that he had received a poor grade in math. What truly upset him, however, was the fact that his close friend and neighbor, Matt, always scored very high in math no matter how hard David tried. Hearing this, David's father quietly went to fetch a glass of water to calm him down. Once David had relaxed, his father led him out into their small backyard garden, which was filled with shady trees and carried a peaceful atmosphere. "David," his father began, "I want you to understand 3 important lessons from what happened today. These are lessons that will guide you as you grow older." David, who deeply respected his father, was a little confused but intrigued. "Can you explain those lessons, Dad?" he asked. His father smiled and replied, "You will learn each lesson one by one through a challenge I will give you." After a brief pause, he continued, "For the first lesson, I want you to invite Matt to play soccer with you tomorrow." David nodded, eager to find out what his father meant. The next morning, the weather was bright and welcoming, and David went to school with his usual excitement. That afternoon, after class, he invited Matt to join him for a soccer game at the nearby field. As usual, David, who played soccer almost every day, dominated the match. He scored 3 goals, leading his team to victory, while Matt, who was unfamiliar with soccer, struggled. He often lost the ball and made mistakes, but despite this, everyone enjoyed the game. Later that day, David returned home, cleaned up, and hurried to meet his father in the garden. "Dad, I played soccer with Matt today. What's the first lesson you want to teach me?" His father listened to his account of the game and then said, "Look at this, David. Matt may not be good at soccer, but he's great at math. Just like how you might struggle with math but excel at soccer. We're all different, and that's okay. Each of us has our own strengths and passions." David felt a wave of understanding and realized that people did not need to be good at the same things. Curious as ever, he immediately asked about the second lesson. "For the second lesson," his father said, "I want you to pay close attention to Matt tomorrow at school. Keep track of how often you see him counting or working with numbers." The following day, David eagerly accepted the challenge. He quietly observed Matt throughout the school day and noticed how often he was engaged in math-related tasks. He saw him working on problems, solving puzzles, calculating change during recess, and even counting the petals of a flower. That evening, when his father returned home, David reported everything he had noticed. His father smiled warmly and said, "That's the second lesson, David. Matt is good at math because he enjoys it and practices often. If you want to improve at something, you have to practice it regularly, just like you do with soccer. And practice doesn't always have to be difficult. It can start with simple things, like counting petals on a flower." David smiled as he realized that with consistent practice, he could get better at anything, just as he had with soccer. Without waiting, David eagerly asked about the third and final lesson. His father thought for a moment and said, "For the last lesson, I want you to think about how much better Matt is at math compared to you." David paused before answering. I think Matt is about 3 times better at math than I am." "All right," his father replied. "For the last challenge, I want you to study math 3 times harder tomorrow." Nervously but determined, David agreed. The next day after school, he sat down to study. He worked intensely for an hour, then pushed himself to keep going for 2 more hours, triple his usual effort. But before long, his head began to ache, and he fell asleep over his books. Later, his father woke him gently for dinner and asked him to meet in the garden afterward. Feeling ashamed, David admitted, "I'm sorry, Dad. I couldn't complete the challenge. I studied so much that my head hurt, and I ended up falling asleep." His father placed a comforting hand on his head and said, "David, this is what happens when you try to master something you don't enjoy. It's difficult to stay disciplined and consistent. But when you study something you love, discipline feels much lighter. Just like how you stay dedicated to soccer without anyone having to remind you." After a thoughtful pause, he added, "So if you want to be smart and become an expert at something, either study what you love or learn to love what you're studying." David, filled with admiration for his father's wisdom, promised to carry these 3 lessons with him for the rest of his life. And so, through this story, we learn not only about strengths, practice, and passion, but also about how to approach learning itself. Remember, learning English or anything else can be fun when you practice regularly. So keep listening, keep learning, and keep growing. Thank you for being with us today. Make sure to like, comment, and share how this story helped you improve your English. I'll see you in the next story where we will continue learning together.